Cool, let's get into it.
So we've both worn outfits that are very fitting to what we're talking about today. Doc's very fitting to his movie that he chose.
Do you know what Disney bounding is?
Disney bounding?
Yeah.
No.
It was like a 2014, 2013 completely Tumblr forbidden lore where people would take a character and like make a version of their outfit made out of normal clothes.
Oh.
So it would be like cosplay but for the daily worker, you know?
I see.
So I'm Disney bounding
right.
my movie
see.
right now.
Yes, you are. And my outfit doesn't relate to the film, but it relates to the theme of today's episode.
Bite me.
Bite me.
Show him. It's a for our lovely listeners.
Yeah, it's got my jumper has mosquitoes on it, and then it says "bite me" below.
It's super cool. Where did you find it?
I found it on Vinted or Depop.
Oh, nice.
Like a couple of years ago, and I love it.
It's cool. Yeah.
Yeah, I do really like it.
And the theme of today's episode.
Everyone,
please. Get ready. We're getting rough and rowdy tonight. We are talking about violence. Let's go. Yes.
Violence.
Yeah.
Yeah, which is your choice of theme.
Yeah,
very interesting.
I brought this one, and because I also thought that we could approach it in an interesting way, because violence is like quite a broad subject.
By interesting way, we're gonna fight on camera. That's what we're planning on doing.
We'll see. I also think I'm probably gonna be able to talk you to my side.
I see.
But we'll see.
Yeah, we'll see.
Should I just get into it?
Get into it, yeah.
I've got the timer ready.
Yeah, and
here.
Your film that you've chosen.
Okay, cool.
It's delightful.
Yeah. So the movie that I brought was 2011's Goon. Very unfortunate title for the 2020s audience.
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that. It was a different world 10 years ago. But it is a comedy. Oh, I forgot the director. But it was produced and written by Jay Baruchel? How do you say his name?
I'll
find his name in a second. He also plays a character. In the movie, he plays a friend.
Oh, interesting.
Jay Baruchel, I think.
Okay.
Canadian actor. It's a Canadian film.
Very Canadian.
Very Canadian, yeah. And it follows the story of Doug Glatt, this young 20-some... Sorry. It follows the story of young... of young Doug Glatt. 20-something guy who has no like... He comes from a family of doctors. Check.
Interesting.
Doesn't really kind of know what to do with his own life because he likes hockey. We know that much. And he's like big and strong. But there's like not a lot going on in his life. So he feels like, a bit left out of life. And yeah, as I said, he's a fan of hockey. His best friend has like a hockey podcast, public access show situation.
Very Oz-coded.
Yeah. And one day they go to a hockey match, a game, a local one. So at this match that they go to, this game, do hockey people call it a match? I'm so used to like fighting terminology.
Oh, true. I'm sure it's a match.
Yeah, whatever. It's a game. And one of the players in the rink gets put on timeout, and he's angry and he starts using like homophobic slurs. And Doug's brother is gay, and he like loves him, and they're friends. So he's also quite bothered by it. So they start arguing. The player climbs out of the timeout corner, and they start fighting. And then very quickly, Doug just like flats him out.
Eats him
just
to a pulp.
Yeah.
Flattens him.
And bulldozes over him. Mm-hmm. So that's how he kind of like starts getting attention from people. And then, he ends up, because of that reason, he ends up working for a team, even though he doesn't really know how to ice skate at all. But it's more so because he's good at fighting. And in those, leagues of hockey, people do fight a lot. It's not like the NHL, which tries their best to be, squeaky clean, People there are good, they fight. So he's good at fighting, and there's this other player on the team, Xavier Laflamme, which is an incredible name.
Crazy name.
Yeah. Who is like really good at scoring and stuff, but he cannot fight. So he's brought in as basically muscle, as a hired goon, hence the name.
Yeah.
And he learns how to ice skate, and he never really becomes very good at it, but he learns how to do his role as an enforcer, that's what they're called, and protect his team that way. Then also he meets this girl. Do you remember her name?
No.
She's played by Alison Pill, and she does a
kind of
great job.
irrelevant.
I don't think so.
I mean, not irrelevant, but like, I don't like her character.
Oh, I love her character. We'll get into that later.
Yeah.
But basically, she's just like a fan of hockey, and Ava. She's like a fan of hockey, and she's like a groupie of hockey players of sorts, and they start getting a romance. Turns out she's actually with Doug. She's cheating on her boyfriend, who she already has, but they start to get closer and closer, and then towards the end of the movie, like she also has like this realization, like she says like, I'm into violence, right? I'm into the aggression of it all. Mm-hmm. But then as she gets closer to Doug, she kind of sees the other side of it, and she sees like really what's at stake. Mm-hmm. And then they kind of like end the movie together. Now there's also another character who's important. His name is Ross Ray, and he is like the rival essentially. But it's interesting that they don't paint him as a bad guy. I was watching today an interview with Sean Michael Scott, who plays Doug, and Jay Baruchel. Mm-hmm. Sorry if I'm getting the name wrong. Right. And he was saying how he wrote the movie. I mean, you can see his fingerprint all over the movie. He wrote it and produced it. And he didn't want Ross Ray to be a bad guy. He was like, he's the antagonist, but he's also got his own reasons to do things. But anyway, he's also an enforcer. And, you know, as a typical structural Hollywood movie goes, towards the end of the movie, they get put against each other. That's like the final fight. And they get put into timeout at the same time, and then timeout ends, and they both immediately throw down their gloves and start fighting. And that's how the movie ends, with the two of them fighting. Doug wins, and Ross, that's how he retires. And literally that's how the movie ends, as Doug is taken away from the rink, and because he's really, really badly bruised from his fight with Ross, and Ava joins him, and he feels content about having fulfilled his role for the team. Mm. So at the beginning, where he was a bouncer for a club, and he didn't have any sort of direction or purpose in his life. By the end, he has found that he can use his like intuition of aggression and violence for something greater than himself, and kind of like find purpose through that. Yeah. And also the movie's very funny. I don't think you think it's very funny, but I laugh a lot.
I think if I'd watched it when I was a kid, I would really like it.
Yeah.
Because I have movies that I like that are similar to this, and I really like them, but it's because I have nostalgia for the nostalgic experiences of watching them.
And I'm a kid at heart.
Yeah,
so.
yeah. So I think I understand why you like it, and I think if I'd watched it when I was younger, I'd love it as well.
You're too cynical now.
You're
too
cynical,
jaded.
I'm too weathered and jaded and old and crusty, so yeah.
Cool, so we'll talk about that, and I have like lots to say about why I like this movie, other than how funny I find it. But I do find it very funny, and it's a sports movie, which I love. I love sports. Mm-hmm. Go sports. I really want a T-shirt that says like "Go sports," and I'm like, yes. And lots to say, but we can get into that a bit later.
Yeah.
If you please, why don't you tell us about your I can put the timer for you if you want.
Yes, you set me timer.
Let me turn the volume up. But a very interesting movie you brought, a movie that I hadn't seen, and that offers a very different perspective on the issue.
Yes.
Okay, so timer, go.
Yes, so for the theme of violence, I chose the film The Age of Innocence, which is of course directed by Martin Scorsese.
Bro, what's the deal with that guy? Everywhere you turn, he's there. Yeah. I'm surprised it took us this long.
He's here, there, and everywhere, and somehow we've only just mentioned him.
You look under a rock and he's there. Oh my god. You look behind you and he's there. You look above you and he's there. Oh my god, Martin. You're all over the place.
He is just like the reigning king of the film industry, you know? Like, I do worry when, God forbid, when this day comes, when he dies.
Oh, that's rough.
That's going to be a really hard day for cinema. And
Shout out.
We're going to need a national holiday for all cinephiles when he goes, because that's going to be rough.
But anyway, Age of Innocence, What year?
1993?
I'll check it.
Yeah, like it was definitely like early 90s. I know it came just after Cape Fear and Goodfellas. So
I see.
he'd just done Goodfellas, which is obviously arguably one of the most important...
93.
Yeah, 93. One of the most important films of his career. It's obviously known for being very violent. It's like classic gangster.
Which one? Goodfellas?
Goodfellas.
I haven't seen.
Right. It's you know, it's the kind of like the epitome of the trademark of his style, what he's known for, this like specific kind of genre. And everyone was like, ooh, what's he gonna do next? What's he gonna do next? And then he chooses to do a period piece, and he chooses to adapt Edith Wharton's classic novel set in the 1870s. And it was like a complete shock for everybody. Everybody was like, what is he doing? Like,
And the movie is very novel. Like, it has this voiceover, and I wish I could have an audiobook of the entire book narrated by this person.
Yeah.
Because she did an incredible
great
job.
narration, yeah. And it's my favourite Scorsese film. Like, I love this film so much.
I don't know which one mine is. I'll have to think about it.
Think about it. Yeah, we should do an episode on this man at some point. God knows he needs the publicity. So, yeah, it's my favourite Scorsese movie. And what
I'd ask why, but I'm sure you'll tell us.
I will tell you, but I will tell you what drew me towards bringing this movie for this particular theme. And it's because Scorsese himself described it as the most violent film he's ever made. And I heard this before watching the film, and I was like, wow, that's really interesting. And I watched it, and I could obviously see why. And it's a very interesting exploration of this film, because like you said, it's subversive. It's not explicit violence in the way that we'd expect. It's not a bloody film.
I mean, Goon, the title, so not to get into comparisons too soon, but the title drops with like a tooth falling out of someone, and it's bloody.
Yeah,
so you know,
it opens immediately,
typical violence.
First frame with physical violence. But The Age of Innocence is about a different kind of violence, which we'll talk about more, but I'll give a brief plot summary before we go. Mm-hmm. So it's about this guy called Newland Archer. He's from a very prominent New York family.
Another incredible name.
Brilliant name, you know. He's from a very like high society kind of New York family. It's the 1870s New York. It's a time where everybody in the city kind of knows each other. It's like just kind of draped with tradition and kind of this very particular societal order. High society. And Newland is engaged to this woman called May, played by Winona Ryder.
Beautifully played.
Newland is played by Daniel Day-Lewis. They're newly engaged. Everyone sees them as like the perfect match because they're both from great families with very like good standing and kind of very well respected within the community. And at the time of their engagement, there's a bit of a scandal going around in high society New York because May's cousin, Ellen, she is kind of in the throes of a divorce, which is at the time the biggest scandal that a woman could go through. To be going through a divorce, to be separated from your husband,
which still is like, if you don't want your husband, kill him.
Yeah. Exactly. And it's just like not the said thing to be doing. It's very not prim and proper. So that scandal is kind of tainting the entire engagement because she's in the family and everyone's discussing it and it's very taboo. And basically, Newland is kind of helping Ellen through the divorce because he's a lawyer and, you know, obviously she's family of his fiancé, so he's kind of like trying to do his best to help. And through this process of like meeting her and talking with her, he falls in love with her and the pair become engaged in this like very passionate, very illicit, decades-long affair. And the two of them really are connected through their shared contempt and disapproval of the way that their society is organized and the way that people treat each other. Everyone is obsessed by tradition, everyone's obsessed by gossip, everyone's very invasive. There's this very intense level of scrutiny at every single social event. Everyone's constantly observing each other, making judgments and being very harsh on the way that they talk about the lives of other people, the personal
hangout
lives.
Is never just a hangout.
Everything is steeped in like subcontext and like, you know, ulterior motives. You know, everyone's trying to gain gossip, and that's the kind of currency of this world. And it's very brutal. And both of them have similar views on basically hating this way of living and the kind of group, the social group they're a part of. They both hate
Who do you think? Both of them? Who do you think?
Who hates?
Yeah, who's both?
Ellen and Newland Archer.
Oh, well,
yeah.
I mean, sorry, you're talking about, but I think he grows to hate it. I think at the beginning of the movie, he's quite in his his
definitely.
element.
Yeah, at the beginning of the movie, he's one of these people. He's part of the social group that he later grows to despise.
And she tells him like, "Oh my God, you opened my eyes to how people think of me."
Yeah, exactly.
Because at the beginning, he's very much.
Yes, but then as the film goes on and his love for Ellen intensifies, he becomes more aware of how much he hates this group of people and the group that he's a part of, and the gilded cage, and how oppressive tradition is, and how it's destroying the woman that he loves, and it's destroying him because he cannot be with the woman he loves because of the expectations that are placed on him as being a high, standing member of this kind of social group. So yeah, the kind of film ends with him, and he's been married to May his entire life. They've had children. He's fulfilled his duties by being like a somewhat loyal husband and doing what's expected of him. But we realise...
What a glowing endorsement.
Yeah, I know. And the whole time...
That's your timer, but I interrupted you a lot.
Oh,
so
that's fine.
Keep going.
But the whole time he's been pining after Ellen, and they've been kind of engaged in this like very emotionally fraught relationship, very intense love for each other. And the film ends with him, and he's visiting Paris, and
with his son,
and May is dead. She's no longer with them, and he hears that Ellen is living in Paris, and he is suggested by his son that he go visit her, and he's standing outside her apartment building, and he wants to go in, but he just can't bring himself to do it because they haven't seen each other in a long time, and she's this reminder of this like long regret and pain that he was never able to have this life that he truly wanted and this love that he truly wanted.
The narration puts it beautifully that when he thinks of her now, it's like she's led this life that he wishes that he had almost.
Yeah. And the film has this absolutely devastating final shot of him just turning away and walking away from her building, never to see her ever again. And yeah, it's a stunning film in every aspect of the world.
Yeah.
Michael Ballhaus, who is Scorsese's like long-standing DP, such a beautiful job. Like the film just lives and breathes and moves, and it has this like kind of visual language of its own. Everything is designed within an inch of its life. The production design
is so good.
The flowers, the paintings. I know that they like had paintings like made to decorate the houses of these characters. And
Miriam Margot, how do you say her name?
Miriam
Margolis is in it, and there's a portrait of her.
Queer icon.
Amazing.
Yeah. It's just beautiful. The costumes.
Oh, actually, you're right. You reminded me. Last episode, the one compliment that I had for the Twilight movie is that when you look at the setting and stuff, the production design made it feel like a real place.
Yeah,
like everything feels real.
Very immersive.
And the same goes for this, which is obviously like a much more difficult endeavor. But
detailed.
Everything is so, as you said, detailed. And then the beginning of the movie opens at the opera, and then you see these shots of the audience, and you see like the hair clips, the bracelets, the
rings,
cuffs,
the jewels.
Oh my God, bro!
Yeah.
Everything
Beautiful.
Everything is so beautifully tailored, and his outfits throughout the whole movie. Wow.
Insane. Yeah, it really is like a beautifully directed, made film, like everything. The editing is stunning. There's so many scenes that I'm sure we'll like pinpoint and talk about. But yeah, I chose it because this film is really about the violence of tradition and the violence of expectations that are placed on people and how violent they are to our humanity, and the fact that this man is living this very tortured existence for his whole life because he's desperately in love with someone that he cannot be with because it would go against what's expected of him, and it would go against the tradition of being with a woman of a certain social standing and certain level of respect. And the woman that he loves is someone that's like absolutely no-go. She's so like taboo. She's
like
so
radioactive.
She's so cancelled. Like she could not be more cancelled.
Yeah, for real though, for real.
And all because she had the unlucky, situation of being forced into an arranged marriage. It wasn't even her fault. She didn't even pick this man, and then this man like cheated on her. And all of that, and all because of that, all because of the mistakes that he made, she's now living with this like scarlet, letter on her, and she's
this,
now
like,
living with this
burden
like
in
huge
her,
shame, for the rest of her life, and it's because of that shame and because of the responsibility that she's carrying for this failed marriage that wasn't even her fault, that he cannot be with the woman that he loves, and he sees how destructive.
And she's played beautifully as well.
Yeah,
by
Michelle Pfeiffer.
Maybe my favorite role of hers.
Yeah.
Because she just does it so well.
Mine too. Yeah.
Yeah.
Stunning.
But I think this movie, before we kind of like get in more into the violence and stuff, I think to talk about things that this movie has that the other movie doesn't like even engage on, I think this movie has like one of the most perfectly executed classical love triangles I've ever seen. And it's a trope that's so easy to be like disheartened by, or to be like, oh, it's overrated, like, oh, a love triangle, how creative. But I think in this movie it is just polished to perfection, right? Because you have the attraction between two people, Archer, Newland and May, and that is easy and direct, right? Then May and Ellen are cousins, so they have a simple and uncomplicated link between them. They are cousins. Ellen's divorce does not touch that link at all. And then there's the severed link between Newland and Ellen, where there is desire, but there is a very clear boundary that stops that desire from being fulfilled.
Yeah.
So it's just like, it's not a matter of like Team Edward or Team Jacob, to be like, oh, which boy will I choose? No, here the one with two links is May, not all of them, right? But the one with two clear links is May. But the perspective being told from the movie being told from our Newland's perspective kind of gives us an insight into this, like, what is erotic, is the boundary, the taboo, the things that stop us from getting what we want.
Yeah.
And at the beginning of the movie, Newland is so in his element in high society. He can arrange meetings and talk to people in a certain way where he doesn't need to say what he thinks, but it'll be made manifest in another person. And then by the end of the movie, that same thing is what he has grown to resent, because it is what's stopping him from acting. Yeah, kind of like reaching over and having his desires be met. Yeah. And I think that's just like absolutely beautiful, because at that point, even the barrier between the lover and the beloved is not something static. It's something that has changed throughout the movie. It has changed the two characters. It's not even like, oh, her dad disapproves of him. No, it's something much more meaty. So I'm like, oh, absolutely delightful love triangle. It is. In terms of, I think this is more the writing, the book, than the movie. But in the movie, it is portrayed and presented flawlessly. Yeah, absolutely delightful writing on that end.
It really is.
We also see a bit of foot fetishism. Hello. When at one point the movie's not very racy at all.
No,
like,
I would argue differently, because I think the kisses that they only have, Newland and Ellen only have two like physically intimate encounters. The two kisses that they share, and they are so charged because they're so illicit. It's so like completely inappropriate that they're even happening. And also they're longing after each other for such a long time, and they go years without seeing each other sometimes, and like every single day he's tortured by like, when am I next going to see her? I haven't heard from her. Like they can't just like text or call or whatever. It's like very much just like,
just
up
DM
to the gods. It's like, which social function will allow us to like have a chance encounter.
You're right. It's a very racy film, but it's not a very sexually explicit film.
No, it's not.
But sorry, I completely forgot where I was going with that.
What was I saying?
Yearning. Oh, the foot fetish.
Oh, right? The fetish, yeah.
One of the things we do see, even if we don't see much, is Newland going down and kissing her feet. And I was like, hey, shout out to the foot. Yeah. You can't have film history without the foot fetishes.
Yeah, exactly. It's so true. Another aspect of their illicit secret desire.
But maybe we can now get a bit more into kind of like comparing. Right?
So
because maybe you can actually start a bit, if you don't mind, in telling me a bit more about this idea that this is his most violent film.
Yeah, so in this interview that Scorsese gave, he was basically talking about the eternal, and he described it as exquisite pain. He described the state that Newland is in, he described it as the exquisite pain of this unfulfilled love, and how the exquisite pain of this experience for him is more violent than any other thing, because it's a direct attack on the soul and the heart and what the human spirit actually wants, you know, what the heart desires. And it's this like slow kind of corrosive thing that seeps into every aspect of your life. I mean, if you imagine any situation that you've been in where you're pining after somebody and you really, really desperately love them and you desperately yearn for them, and then imagine
Rough
that,
times.
yeah, oh, horrible, like the worst times of my life, but they only ever lasted for a few months or so, and imagine this lasted your entire life.
Yeah.
That's torture.
Yeah.
That is like, you're alive but you're dead, you know. You might as well be a zombie. And that exact experience, that attack of your humanity and not being able to fulfill something so essential to being alive, to be able to love properly and fully and with the person that you want, that is so violent. And I think that's so true, because all of his other films, they're about the violence of tradition in other ways. It's about the violence of masculinity, and it's about people behaving in ways that they feel they have to because they have to live up to a certain image of masculinity. We see that in like Raging Bull.
Sure,
Also masculinity and the violence of that is explored in a different way in Taxi Driver. But all of those cases
I
is
forgot that was him.
Yeah.
Bro, my knowledge on Martin Scorsese.
Yeah.
He's I'm gonna meet him one day and be like, bro, you should make like more movies. You're kind of good at this.
Kind of like, yeah, you're actually not too bad. But I think it's interesting because all of those films are about somewhat not self-inflicted violence, but it's kind of like it's a very active choice that like, I am going to become a boxer, I'm going to fight, I am going to take my frustrations over my masculinity and over the world and over these expectations, and I'm going to drive around and I'm going to decide to like save this like teen sex worker, whatever, you know. It's like they use it and they kind of have agency over it, and how they like inflict violence on themselves or onto the people around them. But in The Age of Innocence, he's completely powerless because the violence that's being inflicted onto him emotionally is coming from the social structures of their world, and it's something that's unmoving and not it's unchangeable, you know. It's something that's like very permanent, it's something that's very rigid, it's unfeeling. They don't give a fuck about your feelings, they don't give a fuck about, you know, you being desperately in love with someone else. If that woman is disgraced, then you cannot touch her, you cannot love her. And they don't care if, you know, he doesn't really feel that deeply for May. She looks good on paper.
But props to her though. She like still gives him a chance. May.
Yeah,
she's
she
like,
does.
If there's someone else, she's not jealous. She's like, if there's someone else, maybe you should be with them before you marry me. Mm-hmm. Yeah, props to her. I enjoyed her character a lot.
Yeah, she's an interesting character.
But going off what you were saying, I think it's very interesting because, and totally on point, right? Because many, like maybe the most stereotypical definition of violence, the one that Goon kind of follows, is aggression, right? But in Age of Innocence, we see passive aggression and how that's destructive as well.
Yeah,
I was like, wow.
And in some ways, I think more destructive, because you cannot openly address it or necessarily put a finger on it or bring it out into the open because it's all like unspoken, you know.
And oftentimes bringing active aggression into a passive aggression scenario makes it worse for you.
Yeah.
Like if Newland had spoken up about how unfair this was, suddenly he would be the bad guy because he broke the taboo,
the unspoken rule.
Yeah, and kind of like talk about how the different dynamics of active aggression versus passive aggression. I just think that's very, very interesting. Because at first, when I had never seen this movie, but with the exception of one film, I've enjoyed every film that you've recommended to me.
I wonder what that one is, yeah.
And when you suggested this one and I started watching it, I was like, oh, I wonder I was almost expecting some sort of like Yorgos Lanthimos complete bloodbath at the end.
Oh, interesting.
Just because, you know, I was kind of like expecting violence, aggression. But then as the movie developed, I was like, oh, I see what's happening here.
Yeah.
Fudge.
Yeah. It's a whole different kind of violence, and I find it's so painful to watch because you do really feel so trapped by his life. His life is completely he doesn't really have any choice or freedom because he cannot even have freedom over who he loves, and you have this constant feeling of like hundreds of eyes on him. You know, anytime he leaves his carriage or he has an encounter with Ellen towards the end of the film, like there are people that are aware of their relationship, and there's like a bit of like controversy because people suspect that they're having an affair, but obviously no one really says it out loud. And at one point,
May even knows.
Yeah, and she knows about it herself, but that's the point of this kind of group of people. They won't say anything out in the open. It's all hidden and whispers.
And it's like ironic in the sense that the one to call off the affair is Ellen. Ellen? Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
Because May gets pregnant.
Yeah.
And she tells Ellen before she tells Newland. So Ellen doesn't want to be in an affair with a married father and ruin both his life and the child's life and her life as well.
Yeah.
So she's the one to passively leave the situation without telling him why.
Yeah.
So it's like the rules that he used to be so good at is in the end what kind of like causes him pain. Wow.
The exquisite pain.
Exquisite pain, bro.
Yeah, we'll talk more about it, but I really want to talk about Goon.
Cool.
Because I had so many, like, it was such a wild experience watching this film. Like, I texted while I was watching it.
You told me, watching the movie now. And then 17 minutes later, I hate you.
I hate you. Yeah, I was not, I think it was what I was expecting, but I was just so, like, shocked because I hadn't really seen a film like this in a long time. And,
listen, we've got to broaden our horizons.
Yeah,
you know?
I challenged you with Twilight. I really put you through your paces. I apologize for that, but you did the same.
No, don't apologize.
But I thought it was so, actually quite sad.
Yeah.
The way that this main character, what's his name, Doug? The way that he's actually a very sweet, very sensitive, also kind of dumb, he's very much
and he knows it.
He knows it, yeah.
There's a scene where he's like, I'm stupid, his brother, he's gay, stupid, gay, stupid, gay. And I'm like, me though, both.
No.
put them all together.
Absolutely not. But he's very like sweet but dumb kind of vibes.
Yeah.
And it was very
himbo vibes.
Very himbo.
Yeah.
Very himbo. Yeah. Just very sad to me that he is this like very kind of delicate, gentle soul, but he has this like capability for inflicting pain on others, and like he has the kind of brawn, he has the physicality, he has the kind of masculine ideal of like what we associate with like very strong men, and that's kind of used against him in a way that goes against his nature. And it's kind of the tradition of masculinity, of like being this like very strong, like physically kind of overpowering kind of figure is used to a different kind of cause while he's working for this hockey team. But it's an attack on who he is and his nature, because that's not really who he is. He's not a violent person. He's just being exploited for his ability to be able to successfully inflict violence.
But I think he is a violent person. And the thing is, I don't think he's a vindictive person. And I don't think that he sees violence as a way to achieve any sort of glory. You know? Put a pin on that, because I'm going to get back to that when we talk about Ross Ray, the antagonist. But I think he literally only sees it as something that he's good at, as a talent of his.
Yeah.
And I think that sport is very important for society because it allows us to channel that aggression, right? So he's a very sweet guy out of the rink, but when he's in there, he's able to kind of funnel all of that energy into something constructive. And then that way, in his personal life, he's not aggressive at all.
Interesting.
You know, like
so you think if he didn't have sports, that aggression would leak through in his personal life?
Probably. It would probably come out as some sort of frustration. And some sort of like certainly we definitely know that some sort of like unfulfilled some feeling of like being unfulfilled is in that way, and we see two opposite perspectives on this in the characters of Ava and in the character of Ross. So Ava kind of like glorifies this violence, and in a way so does Ross. They represent like the traditional perspectives on self-fulfilling masculine aggression, right? Ava's like, oh my god, that's so hot, which is what men are taught to think, right? Men are taught to think like, if you fight for women and if you are like a warrior, that's what women want. Which is true.
I cannot relate in any way.
No, it's not true. That was a joke for legal purposes. That was a joke.
Oh, it's just
But she's like she believes that, right? That, at least that's what she begins the story believing. And so like for her, this violence is something that you like indulge in, you know, that you enjoy.
A guilty pleasure.
Yeah. And as the movie goes on and she starts to see the reality of someone who is that way, and you know, Doug is very sweet and he is very good at fighting, but he does get hurt, and then he has to exit the rink and remain hurt. It's not like a video game where you leave the match, you leave the game, and you're fine. You go about your life. You might be a little upset because you got flamed, but you know, like, you're fine. You're good. You stay with the hurt, and suddenly she sees the cost of it, and she changes. She's afraid, and she like now kind of has a much more complete picture of the cost of violence, which is something that media doesn't really like show us, you know. When we see action movies and we see sports movies and someone gets hurt, it's like, oh my god, he's a hero for being hurt. When, you know, that's like,
they don't show the spleen surgery or the rehabilitation, the physiotherapy. Bro. Rough.
And then on the other hand, you've got Ross, who's this career guy who's done this enforcing stuff for a long time.
He's a professional, long-standing goon.
God.
Such a stupid word.
Anyway, and he is in a way looking forward to fighting Doug. At the beginning, he's like, well, fucking whoever this guy is, he's a complete nobody, he came out of nowhere, whatever. But then as he starts to learn more about who he is, he actually starts looking forward to fighting him, because it's his chance for what's when you stop working?
Retirement.
There you go. Thank you. It's his chance for retirement. So he wants to go out fighting, right? He wants to go out swinging, but he also wants to lose. You know, he wants to be able to go out not like a punk, but like a hero. So Ross wanting to get hurt, is that masochism? No, that's an like ego fulfilling fantasy of going down in a blaze of glory. You know, he wants to go down as a hero, and he gets that. So the last shot of him, which is actually, I found out in an interview, Liev Schreiber's idea, is that he is smiling, toothless, because he lost a tooth in the fight. So he's knocked out, but he's happy about it. And then you have Doug exiting the rink, and I'm just going into this because, bro, I cry when I watch this movie.
Really?
Yeah, bro.
Really?
At the end when they fight,
Wow.
and they leave, and it's just like all three characters have found kind of like a resolution through the act of violence. You know, Doug has found community. He's like, I can use this violence not to hurt people. Well, yes, to hurt people, but not to be a bad guy, but to protect the people that need protecting. Which is a very Christian idea of what is good. You know, Ava has gone from someone who glorifies violence to understanding the human costs of it. And Ross has gone from someone who has been violent all his life to finding fulfillment by accepting defeat. So it's like opera, bro. I watch it and I'm like, oh my god, this is so good.
When you describe it, it does sound quite beautiful.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah.
But it's all coded in this like frat bro humor
Yeah.
of like vagina jokes.
Yeah, it really is.
And there's so many gay jokes.
Yeah.
So many.
Yeah.
Because it's these men spending all their time with each other with their testosterone up here.
Yeah.
And like, you know, in a way fighting is like sex drive, you know, fighting the will to live, the will to win. And obviously, you know, yeah, it's very like straight boy repression in that way.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of that. So if that's something you don't vibe with, this movie is not for you. But I just find it very moving and kind of like very, very interesting. And there's something else. I don't know if you want to say something before I go on to a different subject about it.
No, you can keep going.
Yeah. There's something I found very interesting. I found an essay on violence and sport from George Orwell. George Orwell? No. Yes, George Orwell. I have it here. From the fateful day of the 14th of December, 1945.
Wow.
So a bit of context.
Yeah.
But the essay is called The Sporting Spirit. And it follows a football match between England and Russia, where things got heated and people started fighting each other, both in the pitch, in the field, and and with the audience, right? And they were all like fighting each other. And he says a lot of very interesting things where he like decries that sport is like good for anything at all. He's like, this is not good. Here are some quotes like, sport is an unfailing cause of ill will. He says, I am always amazed when I hear people saying that sport creates goodwill between the nations, and that if only the common peoples of the world could meet one another at football or cricket, they would have no inclination to meet on the battlefield. But he says that even taking, for example, the 1936 Olympics, that international sporting contests lead to orgies of hatred. One could deduce it. So like he says, like, sport fosters hate and aggression. At the international level, sport is frankly mimic warfare. That's what he says. And now, to give him a bit of credit, this was written in 1945, and really kind of like what he's concerned about is not really sport, but more so nationalism and kind of like the convergence of competition and nationalism. So I'm like, I understand, that's rough, but at one point towards the end of the essay, he says, serious sport has nothing to do with fair play. It is bound up with hatred, jealousy, boastfulness, disregard of all the rules, and sadistic pleasure in witnessing violence, aka Ava. In other words, it is war minus the shooting. And I'm like, here thinking, like, okay, Mr. Orwell, if sport is war minus the shooting, then surely it's better than war with the shooting. You know, that's the obvious solution to that, the obvious answer. And I think that sport is able to channel aggression and kind of like, you know, fight violence in a way where it takes away from other stuff. I agree with him in the sense that sport is not this like utopian view of brotherhood of nations. I agree. It has been, and probably always will be, kind of like a prideful competition. But as a stand-in for the violence of people, it actually helps like ease the social frictions. So I actually feel like violence in sport has a very kind of like complicated and both good and bad aspects to it that are kind of like, it's very reductive to say that violence is bad, or like aggression, violent aggression, not passive aggression, which is also bad, but violent aggression is bad as a blanket statement and serves no purpose. I'm like, well, it's when we see it in sport, it's like when we see it in a play. It gets played out for us and we find catharsis through the kind of like fight of someone else. Because in the kind of leagues of hockey where Doug plays, it's not a fight for points. People, in case you're not familiar with kind of like the particular technicalities of that sport, people do literally take off their gloves and just wail on each other. You know, that's allowed, which is quite, you know, quite shocking for other sports. So that's kind of like in a way that kind of like eases the tensions of everyday life. Now, there's certainly very pernicious aspects to this. For example, it is well studied that cases of domestic violence increase when the nation or the team that is being supported at home loses. And thus that results in domestic violence, which is obviously not cool at all. So I think sport is interesting because it can alleviate the tensions that we have and the instinct towards violence, but it can also make it worse. It can also be the cause of out of pitch violence. People can't take the violence that it's supposed to be. You know, we put on this mask, we put on this uniform, and we are allowed to be violent. But people take that and bring it out of the sacred place. You know, the not to be too like deep or anything, but you know, the arena is a temple where we are allowed to be violent. But when we take it out of there, you are violating that line. You're crossing that boundary. So, Mr. Orwell, sport is fine. It's the people who take it who take the violence outside of sport where it becomes a problem. And I think we see that in Doug. You know, he's ultra violent in the rink, but he leaves it there. He doesn't take it into his outside life.
Yeah, I do think it's interesting though, because I don't know if the fact that he's violent inside the arena and he's very good at that, would he even know that he has those capabilities to inflict violence if it wasn't something that was encouraged from him? You know, it's something that, like, because it's normalized in the arena and it's seen as like a kind of release or like a specific context where you can like indulge in those like instincts.
And it's like ingrained into masculinity. It's like
it's ingrained into. I mean, this is such a stupid story. My dad recently got into, I don't know if I should be sharing this, but whatever.
You can cut it out.
We can cut it out. Yeah, he got into like a road rage incident. And my dad's a cyclist, and there was a car that was like driving really recklessly and driving really close to him. And my dad got off his bike and he like went and they were shouting at each other, him and this man. And my dad gets very passionate about this. He hates when like drivers are like dangerous around cyclists and stuff.
He's got a point.
Which is fair, you know, it's not a good thing to do. But my dad got very angry and he punched this man in the face. And when he told me and my sisters about this, we were completely horrified. We were like, you're a 67-year-old man. Like, what are you doing punching people out on the road, you know? And I just find it interesting that it's such an acceptable or like just normalized response from men. And like, I just don't think that Doug having this ability to be violent, I don't think it's natural to his to who he is. Like, it's not something that he chose. It's just something that he saw being celebrated in other people and realized that he could like get away with it. And I just find it so jarring that his reactions are so extreme. Like, to use that as a response to any conflict, to just be like, I'm just going to beat the shit out of you. That just to me is just such an alarming response. And like, I do get that it's like a kind of ingrained aspect of the masculine experience, and like it is very hard to eliminate that, and perhaps the only way of dealing with it or containing it is to be able to have specific situations where it can be released. But by releasing it in those situations, those people, they gain fame and they gain like notoriety from doing that. Does it just encourage it and make it more acceptable and more normalized and make it like, it just kind of glamorizes it because people think, oh, well, this famous footballer is able to like do this on the field, and he also beats his wife in private, and he's also a rapist and he hasn't gone to jail. So it's kind of just like, oh, that's okay, like that's fine.
Some of the biggest sporting institutions, like for example the Olympics, forbid athletes from getting paid for doing that. But then obviously that doesn't solve the issue. That just kind of is able for them to divert the attention.
Because
I mean the biggest fighting I think the biggest fighting division in the world, the UFC, does not allow for the fighters to be sponsored for the events, but that doesn't stop them from all the other things. So I get that.
It's a very strange thing.
But that said, there is something. I mean, I used to, and hope to get back to it. I used to wrestle a lot, and there is such a thing of like a physical debate, you know, in which people we talk and we make an argument, and you can do that physically as well without using your words. And in a way, even though violence does come naturally for Doug, he also like studies it. There's a scene where they're learning how to fight, and he's like, oh, if you grab the shoulder here, he won't be able to lift it here, so you're going to be able to punch there. So, like, there is a certain, like, tactical nature.
Definitely.
A bit of language to it.
That is a very... Because I've seen you wrestle, or, like, I've been to your wrestling club and I've watched it. And it is quite a beautiful thing, because I remember when I was talking to you about it, I was like, oh, it's like a dance, you know? Yeah. It's like, feels like a kind of very interestingly choreographed, like, game of physical chess, you know. It's like, oh, if I place this move here, then that's going to block you. But like with wrestling, the aim isn't to inflict damage or violence, but like with the way that Doug's doing it, it's like, how can I actually, it's not about like, ooh, how am I going to block this
how am I going to score points?
How am I going to score points? It's about how am I going to like make this guy's teeth fall out? How am I going to knock him out? How am I going to like cause the most damage as possible? So in that sense, I don't respect that kind of the way he's approaching violence, because yes, he is also deconstructing the violence and he's trying to think logically about how to get the most of his punches and his attacks, but it's not in the way that I kind of think in the most violent sports, they're kind of the least violent, you know, like when I watch wrestling or boxing or like, I don't know, it's not about the violence of it, it's about the mind maneuvers behind it. But like when you see violence in football, you know, when two guys get angry from opposing teams and they punch each other, or like in this film, it's like it's
a lot more gratuitous.
It's very gratuitous. It doesn't have like a logical order to it. It's just based on pure emotion, but obviously it's always disguised as not being as a result of emotion. It's like it's a result of strength. And that's where I think it's interesting, because people would typically, you'd expect people to see anger as like a negative emotion and violence being like a negative consequence of anger, but like with this type of violence, it's celebrated and separated from anger. It's like, oh, it's like an achievement, it's like a conquering of or display of strength.
I think in my mind, I agree 100%. And I think in my mind, the movie gets away with it because in his personal life, Doug doesn't glorify the violence that he puts on people. You know, when he beats people up, he apologizes to them. He's like, "I'm sorry that I'm doing this." You know.
Apart from the first guy.
Who was it? Oh yeah. Well,
but then again, to be fair, he was being homophobic.
He when for the most part, if he doesn't have a reason to do it, he doesn't feel good about it. So in my mind, that's why he kind of like quote gets away with it. Yeah. But it's also because like this is a movie and this is like fake. This is fiction, right? This is not real. I think if this story was real, it's like, okay, well, hang on, you know, like there's a lot more aspects to consider. I think it's easier for me at least to kind of like take it at face value because of the suspension of disbelief, right? But I think this is one of those movies where I'm like, I completely see your point, and I'm quite happy that there's disagreement there, because like the nature of violence surely is bound to rattle people in different ways.
Yeah, of course.
And I think that's like completely fair. You know, I think people who are like disturbed by violence in any way have a point. And I think people who think of violence in a more tactical way, in having its own language, it's also valid in that way. So I completely understand kind of like how like you don't see that in the way I'm like, I get it. I just find it interesting that like a lot of the movies, it's sports movies, which I love, that take on the subject of violence and kind of like earning glory through violence, do it without any sort of introspection. And this movie, which is like a complete, like a bro comedy, has a brain to it.
It is interesting.
It's hidden a lot of very under a lot of very immature jokes.
Yeah, jokes. But you're right. It does have a reflective
kind of like
element to it.
Its own stance on it.
Yeah.
Which,
they are reflecting.
You could agree, you could disagree. That's fine. But I just thought it was kind of like interesting in that way. And I just realized now this is probably of all the episodes that we've done so far of the pod, this is one where we've talked about the movies in comparison the least, because it's like they exist on different planets.
Very different planets.
Yeah, like both very accomplished in their own goals. Like I think Age of Innocence is trying to be like this very insightful movie, and it is. And Bro is Goon. Yeah, Goon is kind of like glossing over that and putting on this like construction of a comedy, and it does that way.
Yeah.
So
definitely.
I think in their own ways, both very successful films. I will say one of them is like a hydrogen bomb, and the other is a coughing baby in terms of artistry. I'll let you pick which is which.
Yeah. Yeah, it's interesting. I do think the kind of passive and physical violence, the kind of clash between the two, is really interesting to me.
Yeah.
Especially because now, what would you say is more normalized or popular? The violence that we see in Goon, or the violence that we see in the Age of Innocence?
Well, I don't know. I think because there's so much discourse about like quote toxic masculinity and all that, I think we are very privy to active aggression, and we're able to detect it very quickly and to like analyze it. I mean, George Orwell, 1945, was able to kind of pick apart different aspects to active aggression. But passive aggression very often goes unstudied. At least in my experience, it happens like on a daily basis to people from all sorts of like, different genders, different ages, different perspectives. It happens all the time, and it goes unacknowledged a lot more. Yeah, I think
it's very insidious in the way that we see this manifest on the internet. And I think the scrutiny and the violence of the scrutiny and tradition that Newland feels is something that we see online in like a really amplified, equally as aggressive and toxic way, because you have the opinions and insights and new traditions that are forming online that are oppressing us in ways that we still can't yet quite call out or articulate or know how to combat. And like, I don't know, something that kind of reminded me is the recent kind of conversations about the cast of the Wicked film, and the way that people are constantly observing and scrutinizing these women, and regardless of what you think about how they look or whatever, like, you cannot deny that it's a very strange thing that's so acceptable in a public arena to be discussing in such a blatant way, and often a very like unkind way. It's often not people saying it out of care or like concern. It's often just out of like meanness.
Kind of like a sense of like, I think a lot of violence comes from punishing aspects of society, of humanity, that you think are unacceptable.
Right, yeah.
And to see whatever, I don't even want to create examples because like that's just absolute nasty behavior.
Yeah.
But whatever people see in the cast of Wicked, to use your example, that's worth punishing in their mind, and they just freely go ahead and make themselves heard.
Yeah. And I think it's often this passive aggression is also often coming from false concern, and you see that in Age of Innocence in a very real way. They're all concerned because Newland comes from a notable family. They think like, oh, it's concerning that he would have feelings for somebody that's shrouded in so much shame, and it's like concern over like, oh, he has to choose the right path, we want the best life for him, like we want the best outcome for his future. But all of this is actually just pushing him down and inflicting more violence on him, because they're stripping him of the choice and the agency make his own decisions in his life.
And they're all
so
right there
destructive.
eating up the gossip.
Yeah, they use it for their own entertainment, and they're kind of.
I mean, I think the movie even lampshades it a little bit. There's a line that Miriam, sorry, what's her name? Miriam Margolyes says, very, blink and you miss it, yawn and you miss it line, where a friend of hers comes to visit and she's like, oh, pull down the chair, let's sit down, I want to hear the gossip.
Yeah.
And I'm like,
that's the thing.
There it is.
Yeah, gossip is the currency of this world, and in order to create gossip, they have to inflict this passive violence on people.
Yeah.
And they inflict passive violence through scrutiny, through like passive control over people's lives, through creating expectations, and through enforcing tradition. And this tradition doesn't even serve them, but it's how they create entertainment, because it's creating friction in people's lives.
That's quite an interesting insight right
Thank
there.
you.
Well, because and it actually does relate to sport, right? Because if in sport these athletes are put into the arena to fight it out, and we are supposed to exercise our violence vicariously through them in the realm of society, when there's conflict, people don't dissolve that conflict. They make their stance known, they separate themselves from that which they think should be punished, and they enjoy the gossip.
Yeah.
They vicariously enjoy the downfall.
Yeah. They enjoy the kind
That's
of
dark,
damage.
bro.
Yeah.
That's dark.
Well, it's funny because there's that line at the beginning where Ellen is like hosting this party, or they're hosting this dinner party, and then everybody rejects their invite, and we see this like kind of montage where you see all these invites, and it focuses in on words. It's like, we regret to say that we can't come, or so sorry we're out of town. And Newland or the voiceover is saying that like everyone is speaking in hieroglyphics, but like, is that how you say it?
Yeah,
hieroglyphics.
Hieroglyphics, I think. Yeah.
Everyone's speaking in hieroglyphics, but they know the coded actual meaning behind all of these words, and it's kind of like, yeah, they're kind of enjoying, they're kind of like relishing the like damage that they're causing.
Yeah.
They might not be explicitly saying like, we're not coming to your dinner party because we think that Ellen's a slut and she's like this disgraced lady, but they're saying these like coded phrases that's inflicting the same damage, and they're just enjoying watching it affect this person's life, and enjoying the act of seeing her become isolated from society, and they enjoy seeing her commit like social faux pas, like, oh, she approached this man at a party and she walked towards
Yeah, she
him.
walked away from a group. Oh my god.
And she arrived 2 hours late, and she wasn't aware of the fact that she was 2 hours late, and they enjoy seeing the fallout of her doing these things.
Yeah.
That they've pushed her to act in this way because they've isolated her and treated her like shit through this very passive way, and they love seeing her act and see
there's a decent, now that you mention that, there's like a decent amount of slut shaming in both films.
Yeah, true.
Because also Ava, I mean, self-describedly is like, I sleep around,
Yeah.
Like, I enjoy
She's
it.
like, you don't want to be with me, I'm a bad girlfriend,
Yeah.
I cheated,
and then when I do appreciate that the movie is also not very sexually, like their romance is not very sexual between Ava and Doug. They kiss twice, just like in Age of Innocence.
Yeah.
But they do have a bed scene together, but they're actually just cuddling and they're holding hands.
Yeah.
Which I thought was quite sweet.
We see sex with the other characters.
That's
because
true.
when Doug first walks into the hotel,
Xavier is having.
he's just like raw
sex
dogging
with-
this like woman, and they're like, oh my god, he found her like in a parking lot, and she's like a crack. Like addict or something. They still got her in like a not very nice way. And you're like, oh god.
But with Ava and what I'm getting at is that then in that scene when they're cuddling, Ava is like, oh, you make me not want to sleep with all of these guys. So it's like the sex drive, which is in a way violent, is controlled by love. She like through love finds control of violence. And I think also in a way that's like the unwritten rules of society. That you don't sleep around because you put your own rule over it. You become master of your own body. You become master of your own stuff. So like at the beginning of the romance, Ava's like, I'm a slutatious whore. You do not want to get along with me.
You don't want to get a load of this.
And then at the end, she's kind of like controlled it through through monogamy, which, you know, make of that what you will. But that's the opposite with Miss Ellen.
Yeah.
Ellen never brands herself as like a troubled child.
No.
She's aware that she's a victim of the circumstance that she's in.
But it's everyone else that brands her this name that she can't escape, and it follows her.
Yeah. So I guess in a way it's like external misogyny with Age of Innocence and internal misogyny with Goon.
Yeah.
Tough to be a girl.
Oof.
Tough to be a girl.
Yeah, honestly. Don't need to tell me.
On that note, though, I do recommend both films on their own separate terms. It's very interesting that this is, I think, two movies that we've brought so far that are the most different.
For sure, yeah.
All of the things that we've been able to discuss are like subtext and kind of like, you know, creative intent and all of that, and not necessarily the movies themselves.
Yeah.
So I don't know how much you recommend Goon. I do. I think it's a great movie.
I think I'd enjoy it more after hearing how much you love it. I think I would. Yeah.
Yeah? Well, watch it for me.
Yeah.
Watch Goon for me.
I hope you feel the same about Twilight.
Well, I will say,
Oh,
I don't know if I would be super inclined to rewatch Twilight, but especially if I were with you present, I'd be down to watch the rest.
To be fair, I don't think it's a fun movie to watch on your own. I think it's a fun movie that you watch with people
and maybe
you
like
make fun
heckle
of
it a little bit.
Yeah, you heckle.
And then at certain parts you're like, oh my god, that's like cute or whatever.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. But to just like stone-faced watch it on your own, you're like, oh,
that's
bro.
criminal. Yeah, that's like
so
psychotic.
I would definitely, with you, I would definitely watch the rest of the series.
That's how I feel about Goon.
Cool. There's another one.
With you. Really?
There's Goon 2.
Don't pick that. Don't pick that for another.
Goon 2, Last of the Enforcers.
Imagine. Last of the Enforcers? That's That's wild.
Coming up next.
Yeah, no.
Watch out.
Let's hope not. I really hope